Hello friends, and welcome into the Michigan Football Report. I am your host Tom Downey, in today for James Yoder, and I am joined by Brent Korobotic, the head risk manager over at BetDSI, here to talk about some Michigan football. So Brent, we'll get things started here again with the game itself. Michigan and Rutgers, where Michigan, no surprise, is a very heavy favorite.
Yeah, I mean, it's a monster favorite. You get cases like this where, again, the function of the line you have to keep in mind is our intention, and now it never works out that way, but hypothetically, in theory, what we're trying to do here is balance action. We're trying to, attract as many bets on Michigan in this case as we do on Rutgers. So it's not kind of a case of, okay, how much is Michigan going to win by? More how much, what's a price that's high enough that you might entice some Rutgers better. So, I mean, we started this number out, I guess we're going to say a little bit low. I mean, 37 never seems like a low number with Michigan on the road at Rutgers. So we did open at 37. We're up to 39 right now, and I've still got more bets on Michigan. I've got a wager count favoring Michigan of about 3-1 right now. When I reference a wager count, Tom, that's the actual individual number of bets I've taken. So I've actually still taken 3 times more individual number of bets on Michigan on the road here now at Rutgers. Now, again, you've got to keep in mind, I mean, it's kind of, these two teams are a world apart. Michigan sitting at 8-1, obviously one of the top ranked teams. Their only loss was the first week of the season. You're looking at Rutgers 1-8, and their only win was the first week of the season.
All right, so again, Michigan favored by 39. I want to make note here, at least last I checked, the money line was not available for that in this game. What kind of goes into that decision to not have that available?
It just becomes a monster number, and like no one really is going to lay the favorite number, so you're just going to get kind of one-way action. Again, our intention is to try and get two-way action. There's just no way you get two-way action on a money line that high. It would be like minus 55,000, something like that on Michigan with a number this high, which is just astronomical. And you look, I mean, it's no one's actually going to lay that much money on Michigan, so it's kind of you could stick it up there, but you're just not going to get any action on it. And you're looking at, I mean, Rutgers has been beat up pretty bad. I mean, they got thrashed by a good team like Ohio State. Week 2, they got beat up bad by there. Just trying draw a comparison in terms of what the right number might be. I think Kansas beat them by around 40 or something like that. So you really have to assume that, barring any kind of like emotional letdown or whatever, that Michigan, even not trying to, they're just going to probably roll up and run all over this team. So it really is difficult in terms of putting up a number, putting up the right number. How high is high enough? Michigan really, it's not like. Sometimes you look at spots where, maybe they're going to have a letdown spot. Now, obviously, it was a big win for Michigan last week. I mean, they just basically, pushed Penn State around the field and won 42-7. But they got Indiana next week, so it's not like they're going to, be looking ahead to Indiana and kind of take Rutgers easily, although it is an easy game. So I think the only kind of concern you might have as a Michigan backer is whether they kind of have a bit of emotional letdown off the big win last week.
Let's take a look now at some CFP championship odds as it relates to Michigan. They're plus 750. How much action have you been getting on the Wolverines so far?
Decent action actually across the board. Notre Dame, good action. Michigan. I think the biggest, everyone's kind of looking at this and thinking, okay, Alabama's going to be there. It's like, who's next? Oklahoma's a decent shot, I think, at around 20-1, and Georgia in there. But the real question mark, I think, that people are having a trouble with is that Clemson team is, they just, due to the schedule, everyone's kind of sitting there, wondering how good Clemson is. I mean, are they as good as their record? You look at who they've beat. I mean, they've had a couple of games against some of the, what you might want to call top-notch teams, but teams who really kind of failed to live up to their expectations. I mean, rolling all over Florida State really isn't that much. They put up 77 last week against Louisville. I mean, what does that really mean? Not a whole lot. Michigan, or NC State, I guess, was supposed to be one of their toughest games, and they won that quite handily. So other than the second week of the season when they kind of squeaked by Texas A&M, they really haven't been tested. I think there's a lot of question marks. You look at the remainder of the season, too, for Clemson. I think they're at Boston College, then they're home to Duke and South Carolina. So they're probably really not going to get tested. They're a big question mark.
All right, folks, so you can bet on these odds right now at chatsports.com/betwithbetdsi. Head over to chatsports.com/bet, and we've got a very special promo code for you guys. Promo code LIVE120 gets you a 120% deposit bonus. Put down $100, they'll give you $120 for free for a grand total of $220 to bet with on BetDSI. Now, we mentioned the CFP championship odds here. We also have some Heisman odds for you. Maybe the surprise to some is that Shea Patterson is on there. What kind of goes into that, and how much action have you had on Shea that doesn't include James's bets?
Yeah, I mean, other than James's bet, yeah, no, I mean, Shea's up there. I mean, it's tough. Just the problem now is just that Tua has just run away with this thing. I mean, there was a few weeks ago he was like a minus 150 favorite or something like that. Even early in the season he was like around plus 150 and stuff like that. But in recent weeks, I mean, this Alabama team is just so good. Part of the knock, I guess you will, against Patterson could be that he just plays in a system that's really, really good. He doesn't have to be spectacular. He just has to be solid, and he's definitely done that. So, we talked before, who's going to be a better NFL quarterback, Tua or Patterson? You could argue that, Patterson perhaps a more your typical NFL quarterback, whereas Tua is just, one of those supreme athletes. I mean, I think last week he put up a couple touchdowns, threw for almost 300 yards, rushed for about 50. So, I mean, the guy just does everything, and he's really been cruising along. It's almost unfair to guys like Patterson and Murray and Haskins as well. I mean, those guys are getting some support, and they've had really, really good seasons. But, I mean, Tua's just on another level, it seems. And again, you can't really look at Heisman and convert that to NFL. So I think if you're looking at the NFL, I think Patterson, might be the kind of guy who has a better NFL career. But, this is about the Heisman Trophy winner, and Tua has just been doing it all.
Yeah. Let's take a look now at the Sharps picks this week for college football. We'll start things off with Virginia Tech and Pitt. The over 52 was the popular bet here.
Yeah, we've had a couple of weeks where the kind of sharp plays early in the week were a bit slow, but they picked up this week. I've got sharp action here on VTech and Pitt on the over. The sharp money came in on that at over 52, and we bumped up to 54.5 right now. Generally speaking, like the public does tend to bet over, so whenever sharp money comes in on overs, not a great spot for us, but I got sharp action on the 52, and the public has kind of tailed that up to the 54.5 where we are right now. Another thing we kind of look for in the booking side of things is when you've got public bettors going one way and sharp bettors going the other way. In cases like that, you don't really have to move a line as much to get two-way action because you kind of get one-sided the other way. And one of those games that sets up this week is Maryland at Indiana. I've got Indiana sharp money minus 1.5, and we're at Indiana minus 2 right now. And we haven't moved up beyond 2 so far just because I have so many more individual bets on Maryland. So the public is all behind Maryland, but I've got sharp money on Indiana this week. Another interesting game in the Pac-12, I've got Oregon money plus 4.5. They're at Utah. Couple of 6-3 teams there. Sharp money there on Oregon. And again, my count there in terms of the action is pretty much balanced, but just the money seems to be kind of working itself out. So we're staying at the 4 or 4.5 right now in that game. Wisconsin plus 9.5. They're playing at Penn State. Penn State maybe in a bit of a letdown after the defeat last week. I've got sharp money on Wisconsin, though, and the public guys seem to be backing Penn State. Maybe they're going to rebound, but a wager count, almost 4 times as many individual number of bets on Penn State. So that's quite a substantial count there. So public bettors on Penn State, sharp money on Wisconsin. I've got Memphis money as well. Memphis, a big favorite here, minus 14.5 is where the sharps came in. That lines up to 15.5 right now. They're at home to Tulsa. Kind of interesting to note because 2 weeks in a row, Tulsa was a sharp play as well. So it's not always a case where sharp bettors are going to find a team and bet them week after week. 2 weeks in a row, Tulsa got sharp money and paid for those guys. This week, Memphis is getting the sharp money against Tulsa. And the last one is another total and another over. That's in the Pac-12 with UCLA at Arizona State. Over 58.5 is where I got sharp money. We're all the way up to 62, Tom.
Wow, that's quite a bit. All right, you guys can get on the action here as well at chatsports.com/bet. Use promo code LIVE120 for a 120% deposit bonus. Brent, thank you so much for stopping by.
I appreciate you having me on, Tom.